So recently on the channel, we have been talking quite a bit about Xbox related things because I am an Xbox YouTuber. But over the course of the weekend, I noticed that a lot of different Xbox content creators, whether it's Twitter personalities or people that make videos on the YouTubes, were talking about a specific interview, and they were treating this interview as some massive revelation that just happened, talking about the current state of Xbox and the future of the Xbox brand. And now it was like a new page had turned. There was a lot of positivity, a lot of haha haters. Look at this situation. I was right all along, sort of thing. And I was very interested in seeing what this interview was about. I want Xbox to succeed. I think that they need to be in the video game console sphere so that PlayStation and Nintendo have another company to look at and figure out what to do or what not to do. And of course, the most important thing, competition. So I read this interview, I read this article, and I don't know. I almost feel like I'm in a bit of a twilight zone where I read this article and then a lot of Xbox content creators read this article and we're reading two different things. Like, I don't know if there's a special director's cut of this article that, maybe paints a different picture. But when I read this, I definitely got a different impression than a lot of people did. Did Xbox talk about their current state and their future state? I mean, technically, yes, but is it exactly how a lot of these people are hyping it up to be? That's what I want to talk about in today's video. First time on the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. So, where is this article stemming from? Well, it's stemming from where you go for your video game news. Variety. Variety. You go on the Variety website often. You get your latest and greatest gaming news and information from Variety. On a side note, RIP to Sam Rivers. This shouldn't come as a shock to you, but I was a huge Limp Bizkit fan growing up. $3 Bill Y'all is one of my favorite albums of all time. 48 is way too soon to pass away. Just absolutely tragic. Like I said before, check on your white friends that are 40 plus years old, people, because people just, man, it's been a crazy 2025. But this interview comes to us from Variety, talking with Sarah Bond about Xbox's 2026, their present and their future. And yeah, because Variety is going to ask the hard-hitting questions. Xbox President Sarah Bond explains new handheld steep price, prioritizing Windows experience and next-gen console plans heading into 2026. So, a good headline. Like, I'm definitely going to say that is a very, very good headline. But the real focus of this article is definitely more so on the ROG Xbox Ally X, more so than the future of the company. But, there is something here going on, some stuff here, blah, blah, blah. We have Xbox president Sarah Bond tells Variety that the price tags were determined with guidance from manufacturer Asus based on the feature, so that's why the Ally X is $1,000 reduced. We looked at how do we create multiple options for people, and it really was Asus because this is their hardware. This is all of their insight into the market, into the feature set, into what people want to determine the ultimate prices for these devices. Despite the steep price, Bond says that when pre-orders opened up in September, the reaction was overwhelming demand for this device. We sold really quickly at a number of other places around the world. I feel really good about the value that we're giving gamers for this price based off the reception to the hardware. Now, there's a lot to unpack with that right there. As far as, the multiple options for people and stuff like that, it obviously is something that Xbox is wanting to do for better or worse. A lot of people look at Xbox as strictly a console brand. They don't really get into the other stuff with it. And I think the data that we have from that with things like, Play Anywhere and Xbox Anywhere sort of titles and stuff like that, playing on mobile devices, I think a lot of data does show that people still view Xbox as a console brand. Now, obviously, they are trying to, change that up to some degree, which, kind of a sign of a company that is changing a bit, that is focusing on sort of different things. But when you have this Asus ROG Xbox Ally X thing, and you have a lot of Xbox influencers, and most reviews are talking about things that either can be done already on previous ROG systems, or the main consensus from people who aren't familiar with these handheld PCs is, yeah, this is a great handheld PC, but it's not exactly a great Xbox experience. There's obviously some work to be done with this. Bond says the pre-launch results are a real confirmation of something that we know and have been working towards for a really long time, which is gaming should act like all entertainment. It should be something you can have with you anywhere. You should be able to play any game you want with anyone you want on any device. And I mean, that's an interesting mentality. I've gone back and forth with individuals on this. I still think that exclusive experiences are indeed important, because that's why you get into an ecosystem. And it just seems like this is kind of spreading your wings a little bit too far. Now, that's just my opinion. Obviously, we're going to have to see how this all works out in the future for Xbox when it comes to game sales and system sales and, side system sales and stuff like that, because this is sort of a long-term thing that they're obviously trying to do. It's just a sentiment that I'm not really 100% on board with. You go deeper into here, once we get to this point, I start to realize what this article is. It's just a fluff piece. This is just like PR stuff. There's no hard-hitting questions or anything like that. It's just Sarah Bond essentially doing PR speak for what Xbox is doing and what they're planning in the future. You could see here, it decided to partner with Asus. I don't care why you partnered with Asus. We're talking about, the ergonomics of the system and stuff like that. Like, we partnered with Windows and we wanted Windows on it. There's no keyboard, but we wanted to optimize it for controller and touch all the way through, which the ROG currently does. The ones that I have currently do that. I'm not picking up the Asus ROG Ally X and stuff. Some of the early discourse around Xbox handhelds is questioning who exactly the products are meant for, seeing as Asus is first and foremost focused on PC handheld devices, and there are skeptics who think that ROG Xbox Ally was going to be little more than an existing Asus product with an Xbox button and branding. I wonder why they thought that. While not an internally made product, Bond insisted is Xbox through and through. We want to make sure people have a choice. We want to make sure there's an option for power players who want the latest innovations, that want to push the edge of what's possible, the most demanding players. And then if someone is looking for PC gaming on the go, they're a casual gamer, they're a gaming enthusiast, there's Xbox Allies for them, giving them multiple choices for people so we can actually meet people where they are. You didn't address this. You didn't address the discourse whatsoever, saying that the ROG Xbox Ally was little more than an existing Asus product with Xbox button and branding. Like, yeah, it's a little bit different, but that operating system is coming to the ROGs that are already there. I think it might actually be out on the ROGs that are already there. And there are some, I guess, kind of specific Xbox features, but they're not necessarily features in the regards that it makes this product drastically different than the other ROGs that are on the marketplace. And you didn't, say anything about it here. You just said, oh, we want to give people freedom of choice. Okay, but you're not addressing the concerns. You're not addressing the other things that are tied in with it. The announcement of ROG, Xbox Allies, and Xbox partnership with Asus has also sparked some confusion over whether Xbox was out of the in-house made consoles. Bond confirms that the Xbox team is still hard at work on its next-gen consoles, and there's even possibility of internally made handhelds. Oh, Jesus, here we go. Because that's what people want to hear. They want to hear that not only did you make this ROG handheld that does have a limited amount of Xbox games that you can actually play natively on it, they want to hear that the $1,000 they just spent, we're also potentially working on an Xbox handheld. We are 100% looking at making things in the future. We have our next gen hardware in development. We've been looking at prototyping, designing. Well, wait a minute here. So it's in development, but you're still designing? That's interesting, okay. We have a partnership we've announced with AMD around it, so that is coming. Okay, pretty concrete there. What we saw here was an opportunity to innovate in a way, in a new way, and to bring gamers another choice in addition to our next gen hardware. We're always listening to what players and creators want. Doubt. Where there is demand for innovation, we're going to build it. And this is just a fluff piece. And the fact that like there are journalists, the fact that there are individuals, Xbox individuals reading this and just taking everything as like, this is all truth. This is all real. This is not an interview. There are no hard-hitting questions here. There was no asking about, the raising of Game Pass pricing. There was no asking about, what's going on with your retail storefront. Why are you could say, well, they're not out of Targets and Walmarts, but why is your presence, pretty diminished in those things? I think we can all agree on that. Whether you think that Target and Target and Walmart are going to drop Xbox from their storefronts. Whether you think that's going to happen or not, I think we can all agree that there is a diminished storefront with this. And yeah, people are interested in the Asus Xbox ROG Ally, but it's new hardware. When you look at the grander scheme of things, the Steam Deck is the most successful handheld PC that we've gotten so far, and that's only sold like 4 or 5 million. Now that's impressive to some degree. That does show that there is some sort of a marketplace for it, but 4 to 5 million isn't exactly going to light the world on fire. It shows that it's a very niche product, which is what I kind of think of this. You keep reiterating that you're working with AMD and stuff like that, but what about the people that are invested in your ecosystem now? Like what are you doing for them to make the Xbox console experience, something that they'll want to be interested in going forward? Obviously, you're kind of pushing towards this more PC sort of focus with things like the ROG handheld, and of course, this upcoming console system that's obviously going to be like a hybrid PC console thing. But I do think that could potentially alienate people. But I say all that to say, what are we talking about here? What are these Xbox influencers talking about here? This was the big thing. This was the big revelation. Did I miss something here? Was there a director's cut of this thing that like there was some actual information, not just public, PR speak and stuff like that? I don't dislike Sarah Bond. I think she's probably a nice person or something like that. But I do question, what's the point of this variety interview? Who are you trying to reach with this? Because a lot of people didn't even know that this interview happened. I didn't even know that this interview happened until some Xbox people started spinning this as like the biggest revelation that they have gotten, and concrete information about the future of Xbox and talking about the future of the brand. And it's just kind of like, well, is it anything we haven't heard already? I don't know. Like I said, maybe I'm just reading this wrong. Maybe I'm just, interpreting this wrong. But this definitely seems just like a fluff piece. It just seems like, Sarah wanted to talk. Variety was like, sure, we'll put it on the site. And then, boom, there you have it. I would have liked some hard-hitting questions. I would have liked some actual, I guess what you would call journalism, which seems to be something that, I don't know, just doesn't really exist much more when it comes to the video game sphere. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think of this interview in the comment section down below. Where do you stand on it? Do you think this tells us anything different? It tells us anything exciting? Or is it just the usual Xbox PR speak? I do want to let you guys know that this week is going to be very busy for me in terms of personal stuff. I probably won't be on any sort of podcasts or anything. We might do Analog Allies on a different day. My great Aunt Marie's wake and funeral are this week. I've been assigned to be a pallbearer, so I've been working on my pallbearer voice. Oh, yes. Jokes aside, don't be like, oh, he's a bad person. My uncle sent me that meme too. He was like, oh, here you're gonna be a pallbearer, and he sent a pallbearer picture. I got family coming into town actually today, Monday, so I'm about to go hang out with them. So it'll be a busy week for me. I'm gonna try to make content when applicable, but just bear with me a little bit. Obviously, it's going to be a tough week. But just wanted to let you guys know that. So be on the lookout for content. I will not be on Game and Talk this week, as the wake is Wednesday night. Thursday is the funeral, so Analog Allies will be on a different night if it happens at all. It kind of depends on if Brett is. I think Brett said he could do Friday, so we might do Friday. And yeah, I'll shut up now and end this video. So thanks for watching. Hit subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you on the next one. Later.